It's Monday. You know what time it is. Time for Mondays with Vish. That's Vish. I'm Grant. Good to see you, Vish. Nice hair.
Thank you. Yeah, it's growing out. I need to get a haircut very soon, but unfortunately, I don't really have a place to go in the city. I usually go by my house, which is like 40 minutes away from the city. I'm living in the city right now, so
Well,
the
your
hair is
presentation just reminds me that it's been a couple of weeks since we talked, and the way this show usually works
yeah.
is I say crazy stuff for a week, and then you come in and you balance me out. It's been 2 weeks, so I've been saying crazy stuff, man. So far since I last seen you, I traded George Kittle. He's no longer on the 49ers. Goodbye, George.
Oh,
And Deebo Samuel blocked me on Twitter.
yeah, I
So
saw that. I saw
maybe if you
that.
had been here last week, Deebo would still like me. But okay, I'm not blaming you. I take responsibility. But anyway, I want to talk to you about Deebo today. And not about that. Oh, we can talk about the drama, but it's so silly to me. I want to talk about what's important. His contract extension. The way I see it is this is a very, very tricky negotiation, trickier than Warner, trickier than Kittle, maybe even. Where are both sides coming from? Can you lay this out? Can you see both angles?
Yeah, I can. So
Okay.
first things first, I think the specification on the position for Deebo Samuel is very important in this conversation because if you're gonna say wide back, can we call Christian McCaffrey that type of player?
Why do you go straight to Christian McCaffrey?
Because he had the thousand season, right?
Got it.
Right. So if we go there, right, Christian McCaffrey got 4 years, $64 million, right?
Yes.
$16 million a year.
Right.
Obviously, the guaranteed money, all of those things make a difference. But if we're going to Christian McCaffrey, he's getting paid quite a less bit of money than what Devontae Adams will get paid.
Right.
This
And I don't think Deebo wants Christian
Yeah.
McCaffrey money. No.
No, and I don't think Deebo deserves Christian McCaffrey money. So I think the position classification with Deebo is a very important part of this discussion. Then the second thing, and to me,
Like
this
Farad
is
could
the
come and be like, Deebo, we're going to make you the highest paid running back in the league. How does that sound?
yeah, right.
Not good.
Or because the way I see it, right? Because Christian McCaffrey, first of all, before he got paid, right, his list of credentials was more than even what Deebo Samuel's was.
Yes.
At this point, can we agree on that?
No question. Yes.
Yeah, and so you could make the argument, well, he's a similar type player, not really your exact skill set, not used the same way, but a similar type player in the sense that he adds value in both the run and the pass game.
Yes.
And, Alvin Kamara is right around that range too. You could throw him in that conversation.
So from the Niners perspective, they're trying to start there and work up.
Right. But if
From
you're
Deebo-
Deebo Samuel, and I think where Deebo Samuel's argument becomes a much more pronounced is first things first, Deebo Samuel can say since week 6 of his rookie year, he's been the most important player on this offense.
Yes.
This offense has still not found a way since week 6 of Deebo Samuel's rookie year to operate without Deebo Samuel on the field.
Yes.
It's not the same offense without Deebo Samuel on the field.
Yes.
So that's the second thing.
Yeah.
Then the third thing is, and I think this is where his argument becomes exacerbated, Deebo Samuel became like the solo star for this team, right? The Niners of this year, the 2021 Niners are synonymous really with the boombox guy and Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams leading the troops out to Super Gremlin. This team went how Deebo Samuel went. This team played like the infectious energy that Deebo Samuel created from, his physicality and just his ability to make big plays is what energized and got this team going. This team played off of Deebo Samuel. He doesn't talk a lot, I guess he talks as much as any star player would talk, but he doesn't say a lot and he doesn't really self-promote. But he became kind of the leader of this team, quote unquote, even though he wasn't speaking like he's the leader of this team because they went how Deebo Samuel went. Right. And so when you throw in all those arguments and you say this, well, he should be paid, as the highest paid player as a receiver, but he should be one of the 3 or 4 highest paid players on the 49ers because they go how Deebo Samuel goes.
And again, like the highest paid wide receiver in the league's making $25 million a year, 27.
Yeah.
27. DeAndre Hopkins. So Deebo was all pro
Devontae
this
Adams
year.
is about to get paid.
Right. So Deebo was an all pro this year. Why would he not expect something like that? And we're talking a difference of about $10 million a year from Christian McCaffrey to that.
And then of course Deebo, then his injuries will be a part of this conversation, unfortunately. And he battled injuries in South Carolina. That's why I think he went in the second round, because to me, just based on what he was in South Carolina, he was a first round pick, no brainer. Just on the field. Then he battled, was banged up a little bit his rookie year. He still played 14 games. He was banged up his second year. He didn't get off running because of the foot injury, and then it all compounded.
That was a bad year.
And then
2020 was pretty much a bad year for Deebo. He was never healthy.
Right. And then 2021, right? He still was banged up this year, but he was able to manage his body throughout. And I think the interesting tidbit is so Deebo Samuel actually works out in Brandon Marshall's gym, I think. Or something to do with Brandon Marshall. The point is Brandon Marshall has seen him work out. And I was watching some interview with Brandon Marshall. I forgot what it was. And Brandon Marshall was talking about how the sky is a limit for Deebo Samuel. Like, he's seen him work out and he's extremely special. The one thing he has to figure out is how to recover his body. And he said once he figures that out, nobody's going to stop Deebo Samuel. Right. He's that special. And to me, when you're talking about the body recoverment, right, that's when you're talking about the injuries. And that's where, if Brandon Marshall, who watches him work out, daily in the offseason, is saying that because he works out at that gym, and he said it in passing, he said it as a compliment, actually, like, wow, like, this guy is so talented. That's what he was meaning to say. And that's what I'm taking it as too. But the point is, that's where I think this negotiation is going to be really interesting to watch
essentially
play out.
Goes so hard, right? On the practice field, in the weight room, in games, like, at a certain point, you got to learn how to balance it. And as you get older, recovery becomes more and more important, right?
Yeah. And it's just, how is he going to manage his body? And the thing is, and that's where, if Brandon Marshall brings that up, and I think where it's interesting from the 49ers perspective is, if Brandon Marshall brings that up and the 49ers, let's say, have a slight question mark about it, well, it's not about just paying Deebo, right? Because the investment in Deebo, everything I just laid out from Deebo's side is he's the franchise player on this team. Well, if he's going to be a franchise type player, the investment is that he plays for you for 4 or 5 years in a row at this extremely high level. He certainly has the talent to do that. Nobody denies that. But can he manage his body for 4 or 5 years in a row and continue to play at this level? If that's a question mark, that's where I think this negotiation becomes interesting. In my opinion, I would pay Deebo Samuel whatever. I think he's that special. I think the fact that he did, in my opinion, become the leader of this team, because we did talk about leadership throughout the middle of the season, right? We talked about the fact that, without Staley, without Buckner, this team doesn't seem to have leadership and all these kinds of things. And the second half of this season, this team went how Deebo Samuel went. Deebo Samuel made all the big plays for this team. The play of the season, right, to beat Green Bay, 3rd and 7. It was Deebo Samuel who ran that for a first down against the Cowboys. It was Deebo Samuel that was the star of the game. The Niners offense did more or less nothing against the Rams defense in the NFC Championship game. Sans really one play, and that was Deebo Samuel taking a screen 45 yards for a touchdown. He made that one big play. So,
real quick, let me just review real quick. It seems to me that what Deebo, if you're watching, and I know you're a big fan of the show, so let's just talk directly to Deebo right now. Deebo, they're going to make you meet in the middle. What's going to happen is you're going to come to the negotiation saying, I'm the best wide receiver in the league. That's what the coaches think. That's what I think. I want to be paid $100 million 4 years. And they're going to say, right, here's our offer. It's going to be a little bit more than Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey. And they're going to want to meet in the middle. They're going to have all these arguments. Well, you actually play running back. Actually, you drop a lot of, actually, you've been hurt. There's a lot of things they can say against you. And what they're expecting is you to meet them in the middle. Who didn't meet him in the middle was DeForest Buckner. They went to the negotiation and Buckner's like, I don't want to hear it. I've been nothing but the Iron Man for you. I see myself as a top 3 defensive tackle in the league. Either pay me that or I'm gone. And they were like, what?
Didn't Buckner say after, though, that
he was willing? He said he was willing to meet him in the middle.
He said that, no, but he said they weren't even willing to meet him in the middle because they felt like he already priced themselves out and they've already made the decision to move off of him.
That's a good point. So I hope the Niners, something like that doesn't happen to you, Deebo, if you come in real.
So I don't think it will. They drafted him.
Good point.
They drafted him. So I think that changes the entire conversation. But I think
because they made Warner the highest paid. They made Warner highest paid his position. They made Kittle highest paid his position. They're not going to do that for Deebo.
No, I think so. I think that's
You
where
have to.
I think that's where this conversation is really interesting because
Yeah.
I don't think it's just like, oh, the Niners, like this isn't anti-Niners or this or that or anybody's wrong. I just think this is one of the most interesting contract negotiations we've ever seen.
Yes.
Because one, Deebo's position is so unique. Two, Deebo's so unique as a player. And then three, you talk about all these things. Okay, Deebo's unique, all of this. And then the Niners also have to pay him, like a franchise player. But at the same time, how do you negotiate this deal? I think this one is going to set a precedent for a lot of different deals in the NFL because, I mean, let's be honest. I've been saying it since we started doing the show. He's the single most valuable player on their offense.
Yep. On their team. Well,
Like that's the thing, right? Kittle's a superstar. Juszczyk is an excellent player. Ayuk is really good. The playoffs, this team was a solo star team. Their offense was Deebo Samuel.
it's true.
That's it.
That's true. So before we move on, I would like, if you wouldn't mind, could you give a very early prediction of what this contract's going to be? Because Deebo's really interested. He wants to know what he's going to make.
I have no
4
clue.
years.
To me, it has to be north of $100 million.
It's got to be 4 years, 100 million, right? And the Niners are going to try to find every single way to make it 80, 85, 90. Deebo, don't take that. Stand firm.
To me, he has to be paid. I think he's deserved it. He's first team All Pro.
Now, what scares me about Deebo is that his career arc and George Kittle's career arc are very similar. I mean, Kittle was great his third year, and everyone's questioning like,
I knew you were gonna go here, and I was ready for it because I think there's a massive distinction to me. I think the big difference is I don't think Kittle ever became the heart and soul of the 49ers, and it felt like Kittle was, taking them somewhere. Deebo became the heart and soul of the 49ers this year. I mean, every time I turned on
done
ESPN,
much in the playoffs. I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
6 games, 15 catches, 1 touchdown, 150 yards. Like, he hasn't done much in the playoffs.
Every time I turned on ESPN during the playoffs or NFL Network or any of those things, they talk about two things. One, how far can the 49ers go with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, right? That's conversation one, that's given. And then the other thing is, how special is Deebo Samuel? Wow, this Deebo guy, like, wow. And, it's also apropos that his name is Deebo because the entire swag factor of the 49ers is that, you got big Trent Williams and you got Deebo Samuel coming down with Super Gremlin playing, and they intimidate you because Deebo's going to hit you in the mouth, and then Trent Williams is the best in the NFL at what he does.
Yes. Good point. So Deebo and your agent, hang tough. Respect Grant for handling the situation properly. What did you think of that silliness yesterday on Twitter?
Honestly, I didn't think much of it.
Me neither.
It's not a big deal that he blocked you, honestly. I don't know why people were up in arms. I think there's a lot of people that really don't like you, and they use this as somehow this proves something that they think about you, but I don't think it proves anything.
At the end of the day, a lot of times.
Yeah, and first of all, Deebo Samuel blocking you or not blocking you does not prevent you from doing your job one bit. Deebo Samuel blocking you or not blocking you doesn't prevent him from doing his job. And he's still going to have to answer your questions in press conferences. You're still going to be able to ask him questions. I just think it's a funny back and forth.
I can't wait to ask him a question in a press conference. That's going to be fun. Shivnur says, anytime a Niners player blocks Grant, their career slopes downward. Might want to unblock Grant Deebo. Nick Bosa's been just fine.
My question is, has he blocked Jennifer Lee Chan?
Oh, I'll have to ask Jennifer on that one. Shivnur, thank you.
Because she does irk him, according to him.
He said that. I don't understand that. Anyway. Okay, me and Jennifer Lee Chan in a very exclusive group. Let's move on. Who, in your opinion, are the 4 untouchable players on the 49ers? I bring this up because it's that part of the offseason where I start wanting to trade important players. And Niner fans are like, no, off limits. So who are the 4 untouchable players on this roster?
Yeah, to me, there's only 4, right? I think there's more players that Niners fans will put in there. I think the reality of the situation is, at the end of the day, as much as people don't want to believe it, the Niners themselves probably only look at 2 or 3 players on their roster as truly untouchable. The rest of them, if they've got a call about them, I'm sure they would consider it, depending on how serious the offer is. That's the reality of the NFL, whether or not, you want to believe it. And to me, there's only 4 on this team that I look at as truly untouchable. You wanted me to rank them. So the first player to me that's truly untouchable is Trent Williams. I don't care who calls about him. It doesn't matter. Like, this is Hall of Fame tackle. This is Jonathan Ogden, Walter Jones. This is, one of the best tackles we've ever seen. He makes their run game go. He makes their pass game go. He's phenomenal. He's unbelievable. He's worth every penny he gets paid. He's unbelievably special. And he plays a premium position, left tackle. Then the second would be Nick Bosa, right? Again, I think where Nick Bosa gets the edge from my other two is really he plays a premium position as well. He's an edge rusher. And really, there's no questions about Nick Bosa other than the fact that he's had a couple of serious injuries in the last 4 years, the core muscle and the ACL. Besides that, there's no questions about him on the field. There's really no questions about, with him managing his body or any of those things. He's always in tip-top shape.
He comes back stronger every time. It's amazing.
And he plays hard every down. He's unbelievable, one of the best players in the NFL. And then the other two to me, and I think you can kind of rank them differently. It's Fred Warner and Deebo Samuel. Those would be the other two to me that are untouchable. Fred Warner, I think what he does in coverage, because I've seen this a lot, and I would like to go on to this part. I've seen the 49ers don't value coverage. They only value pass rush. And I asked this question on Twitter, is valuing coverage simply investing in a cornerback? Because the 49ers paid Jimmy Ward a lot of money. They paid Jaquiski Tartt in 2017 a lot of money after that 2017 season. And the guy that makes the 49ers good in coverage is 54, the middle linebacker. He's unbelievable in coverage. And they pay him $20 million a year. Like, Fred Warner is not the best, run-fitting linebacker in the NFL. To me, he's the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. He's what makes them go in coverage. So I think he's untouchable. I think he's unique. I don't think any other linebacker in the NFL can cover like him. And then the fourth is Deebo. And we just talked ad nauseum about Deebo's value. We don't need to say more about it. He's one of the most special players in the NFL. I don't know if I would rank him fourth. I think him and Fred Warner, because they both don't play a premium position, would be tied at 3. I think Bosa, Trent Williams, those two guys, I think those are the two best players on the team. And so, therefore, I think.
I like that. I agree with it. So the one player we didn't mention is George Kittle. And I would have to agree with that as well. I think he might have – at one point he was untouchable. But
no, he was. 2019, he was untouchable, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they had to give him the contract they gave him 2 years ago. But since the contract, he's had – the injuries that are really alarming are the non-contact ones. The foot and the calf, 2 years. And it's not just that. It's that Deebo's taking the play away from him. It's Deebo's offense. So, like, this year, Deebo got 21% of the targets. Next year, he should get 25. And that's only going to come at Kittle's expense. It doesn't mean that Kittle's not good, but I don't think the Niners really understood that they were going to be basically running their offense through Deebo 2 years ago.
Right. And really, because, that's the thing, right? As good as Kittle is, the two guys, quote-unquote guys on this offense are Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. Right? They do creative things to make both of these guys a part of every play because they positively impact every play. And it's nothing against Kittle, nothing against Juszczyk, all great players.
I think it's getting hard to justify giving Kittle more targets than Ayuk. I think those two are neck and neck in terms of what they give you as receivers. Seriously. It's like their yards after the catch was identical last season. I don't think you can give Kittle 17% of the targets and Ayuk 11. I think they kind of have to be right in line with each other.
I don't think that what I will say about that is I don't think that's exactly a fair one-for-one conversation because the two players are getting covered extremely differently. Ayuk is seeing a lot of backside one-on-ones because of this run game and because of the way they line him up, sometimes alone as the X receiver. Kittle sees a lot more, double teams in zone and stuff like that. So I think Kittle gets a lot more attention than Ayuk. So, Ayuk is a hell of a player. You would expect him to have at least equal stats to Kittle, especially if, Kittle and Deebo command so much attention from opposing defenses.
Any other people we're leaving out? Trey Lance, he hasn't shown enough to be untouchable, but the investment they put into him would be hard.
Right, the investment makes him untouchable.
Be hard to flip it at this point.
Yeah, the investment makes him untouchable.
It's like buying a Ferrari for $500,000, driving it twice. Driving it off the lot, buying it new, driving it off the lot, driving it twice, and then selling it back for like $300,000 because
you're not even sure. You're not even sure it's a Ferrari, right? It's you bought this car that has all the potential to become a Ferrari, but you haven't seen it be a Ferrari yet.
Yeah. But you still spent $500,000 on it. And now after really not even giving it a chance, you're going to sell it for $250,000. Now you played yourself.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what I want to say about Kittle too is just because he's not untouchable doesn't mean that I'm saying, oh, trade George Kittle or George Kittle should be
He's an
traded. But
albatross
I
or he's a
think
net
at this
negative.
point, right? I
Right.
think at this point in his career, given the injury history, given what his cap hit's going to be, given that the 49ers have to pay 2 more of their young superstars massive, massive top of the line contracts, and you have to think about, how do we manage the salary cap to best build a roster to win a Super Bowl, in the next year. If somebody calls you and says, we will offer the 10th overall pick for George Kittle, like let's say the Jets offer one of their top 10 picks for George Kittle, you have to at least consider it. You can't just put the phone down.
Top 10 pick for George Kittle? Whew.
I'm just
Or you
giving
could trade
an
him for a
example, yeah.
player. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Birdman Jr., 86. Wow, this is Lil Wayne's brother? Stepbrother. Says, Coneheads riding with my boy Grant. Thank you. Neil says, I'd say 5. T. Will, Bosa, Warner, Kittle, and Deebo. Well, my question is would Warner be, I mean, we cut out Kittle. Would he be the next one on the list?
I don't know if I would. I would go to Eric Armstead.
See, to me, the issue with Kittle is not about how he plays. The issue is age, injury history. He's 28. He's had 2 injury-filled years in a row. If he has another one coming up, his trade value is gonna plummet.
My thing is, like,
Time is of the essence.
it's not that Kittle. What we're not see the untouchable player and the players that are in this class kind of gives people a different perception of what we're saying. We're not saying Kittle isn't the class of these players, because he absolutely is. He's still one of the best 30 players in the NFL or whatever. He's fantastic. He's the best player at his position too when healthy. Yeah. But given the fact that you have to factor in his contract, you have to factor in his age. He's almost 30. You have to factor in the fact that he's had a history of injuries and he's not giving you full seasons.
Thank you.
Then if somebody calls you about George Kittle, you have to, at least consider it. I mean, I guarantee you the 49ers don't even have 4. I guarantee you the only person they're not fielding calls or 2 is Trent Williams and Nick Bosa. I think everybody else, they would consider it.
I agree. Good point. I agree. Let's be honest. Trey is untouchable. We just mentioned that. Kittle traded after this year. Again, that's why I'm pushing it now. To me, I feel like if he has another 2020, if he has a redo of 2021, you could trade him next year, but all of a sudden teams are like, man, I don't want that contract. He's 30. He's been hurt 3 years in a row. Actually, I'm just saying. Am I wrong?
Yeah. So the thing with the thing to me, and what I will say regarding trading, actually, we're going to talk about it. So let's just wait. Yeah.
Vish, you got to consider sports media in your future.
Heck no.
It's a brutal business, man. It's so bad.
It's the worst business.
The worst business. Okay. Vish, do you think the 49ers should trade George Kittle? Now, trading him for a pick is very risky because the Niners have whiffed hard on first-round picks. I understand that this team's ready to go, and you traded Buckner for a pick. That's a lot of pressure on Javon Kinlaw. What about trading Kittle for another player as good as Kittle? And just the idea being Kittle's great. Let's take that greatness and put it somewhere else on the roster. What do you think?
No.
Man,
I wouldn't do it. Not
no?
this year. Not this year, and that's because you have an unknown at quarterback about to start. And George Kittle makes life easier for him.
That's true.
And so I wouldn't consider it this year because of that. Because to me, George Kittle, like, what makes this situation so good for Trey Lance, for lack of a better word, and what makes it where if, like a lot of people like me who, even though I know nothing about Trey Lance, right, because we barely get to see him play, I feel so confident about him because I feel like he's in a situation where it's impossible to fail. He's in an infallible situation. Like, the play calling is so good. The weapons are so good. It's really hard for him to fail, to me. Like, it's just such a good spot for a quarterback to play. And part of the reason why it's such a good spot is because of Kittle. And to me, if you remove Kittle and you replace him, I looked at the tight end free agency. There's nothing really that can even approximate George Kittle in this free agency. I think you lose what makes this offense with the talent to be so special for Trey Lance, right? You lose the fact
you're assuming that Kittle's going to play all season and not be hurt. That's the whole thing here, Fish. Like, what if you bring him back and then he misses time? You don't have him. I think we're assuming you're going to have Kittle.
But
had a calf injury week 1.
Here's my thing, though. Can that assumption be made about any NFL player?
Man, wait a second. You're telling me that George Kittle's injury history the last 2 seasons doesn't have you alarmed? 11 missed games. The injuries that he sustained were both non-contact, both lower leg things. One was a calf Achilles combo, and the other was a straight up broken foot. That's not alarming to you?
I mean, every injury is alarming to me for sure. Like, I'm not disagreeing.
man.
Like Kittle's injury history. Like, I'm not disagreeing that Kittle's injury history is a problem here. But I just wouldn't trade him at this point, knowing that Trey Lance is going to come in at quarterback, and
I feel that. That's a
knowing
great
that
point.
you're talking about moving the pocket more.
True.
With Trey Lance at quarterback, and a lot of the bootleg action with Kittle in the flat, that's free 12 yards.
It's true. It's true. I guess what I'm saying is I'm concerned. We're in the same consulting firm now. What I'm concerned about here, Vish, is not being able to trade him next year. I know I've said it 3 times. I'm going to repeat myself one more time. If he gets hurt again, if he has another non-contact injury, and even if he plays through it, his value is going to be cemented as 30 on the downside of his career, injury prone, not worth a first, not worth a second. I don't know if he's worth a third at that point. So to me, it's like the discussion with Jimmy after 2019. Should you trade him now? And most Niner fans are like, no, he just went to a Super Bowl. But then 2020 comes, he gets hurt, and it's like, well, we missed our opportunity. You could have had a first here. Now you're hoping to get a third. And now I don't even know what he's worth. So I'm trying to avoid that with Kittle. And I know it's unfathomable that Kittle could be looked at as an albatross, but I think he could if he has another year of injuries.
I'm not saying that line of thinking is crazy at all, because I understand where you're coming from. My point is, I don't really give a damn about 2023 because I want the 49ers to win the Super Bowl in 2022. And to me, like, you got to take that chance with Kittle, because look, the Niners have this window. Okay, here's the thing people don't understand, right? Even if Trey Lance becomes excellent, there's no guarantee the Niners put together a Super Bowl roster around him again. They have a window right now with a Super Bowl caliber roster. The NFL is just too volatile to guarantee that. And so you have that, and now you have a quarterback who you think is going to be the one that gets you over the hump, because that's why you gave 3 first-round picks to go get him, even with having a Super Bowl roster and, going to the NFC Championship game with him contributing very little. Like, to me, if you're from that standpoint, you got to go all in 2022, and you got to do it right here with George Kittle, because the trio of George Kittle, Ayuk, and Deebo is the best trio of weapons in the league, right?
Yes, I do agree. I also feel that the team would actually be better if you traded Kittle for I've been saying this name all week. Let's say Xavier Howard. And I don't know that the Miami Dolphins would agree, but let's say they would. They're paid about the same. You do it after June 1, it's less of a dead cap hit. Let's say 1-for-1 they could do that. Now you trade an all-pro tight end when healthy for a number 1 cornerback who's missed 1 game the last 2 years and intercepted 15 passes. Okay. I would still think you would you wouldn't just hand the starting job to Charlie Warner. You could sign, for example,
the only intriguing name in the market to me is Uzomah.
You could sign Uzomah. You could sign,
but I think he'll get signed.
I mean, they're not going to be as good as George Kittle.
Signed. Yeah,
but you would have a free agent tight end plus Xavier Howard. I think that's a better team.
So, but here's where the drop off comes off, though, right? Because most offenses really are, you have 3 really main receiver options.
Yes.
The Niners have nobody really. I know Juwan Jennings played really well, made a lot of tough catches, and he competed. I know you love Ross.
Did you just call Ross Dwelly a nobody? How dare you?
He's not a nobody. I'm not going to be Quincy Avery calling Brandon Cooks a Walmart employee.
If you wonder why I'm trying to trade George Kittle, it's all 40 chests to get my boy more playing time. I hope you guys have figured it out.
But the point is, I think there would be a massive drop off in their pass game, because really they would have 2 viable options, really. I mean, unless Jennings, takes this massive step forward.
Well, I hear you on that. What I'm saying is sign a tight end who's a third option.
That's what I don't think Tunney's a third option, though.
Fair. Or you draft a tight end. Right. I haven't really dug into the tight end, but I see there's Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio. So there's guys you could take with that 2nd-round pick if you wanted a starting tight end. I don't know anything about Jeremy Ruckert.
To be fair, we've learned our lesson from the last couple of drafts that there's no guarantee that 2nd or 3rd rounder is going to come in and contribute.
That's why I would say just sign a guy like Hayden Hurst, CJ. Sign a tight end for $8 million a year as opposed to 16. That's what I would do, and then spend the money on the cornerback instead of the tight end. That's what I
But
would
then,
do.
right. But okay, so you sign Hayden Hurst, right? And then your run game is gonna slip, right? Because this guy is unbelievable in the run game too. I just and going to Xavier Howard too. My worry is I think cornerbacks have a very, very, short amount, unless they're Darrell Green. They usually have like 6 years. They come in when they're 21. They're the freakiest athletes in the NFL. And by the time they're 28, things start to slow down. They lose a step. We saw it with Revis Island. Revis Island fell off hard. Josh Norman had one season. He got paid. He fell off. We'll see what happens with Ramsey.
Sure.
Pat P fell off. Richard
Sure.
Sherman was kind of able to maintain, but he didn't play a game that was, because that he wasn't. He was special, but it wasn't because he had these he was overwhelmingly, gifted physically. And that's where I look at Xavier Howard at 28 years old. And if we're talking as a long-term bet for the future, I think Xavier Howard's body might break down faster than George Kittle, even though, George Kittle's injury history.
I hear you on that. It's just that George Kittle's body is breaking down. And even in 2019, when he was really good, he played through like 4 injuries. That's the thing that kills me about Kittle. Like, his injury history is terrifying to me. And I hear what you just said about Xavier Howard is totally all. I agree with everything you just said. I do. But Kittle himself terrifies me. I don't even root for this team.
No, and again, his injury history is inarguable, right? The amount, the way they paid him
non-contact
in before the season, the way they paid him after 2019, you're hoping George Kittle is, playing 16 games this season, and he's playing 11 games this season. So there's zero
he's 85% when he plays, 90% when he plays. Still a good blocker, though. I mean, look, Niner fans, Vish is on your side. Vish agrees with you. Don't trade. Vish would say wait a year, and that's fine. My only thing is I'm Jewish. What I do is I worry, okay? I'm a worrier. We worry, and I'm worried that you might miss that this is the opportunity. There was that, the Bill Walsh thing. You trade a guy a year early, not a year late. This is a year early. This is definitely a year early.
I think it's 2 years early. Would be a year That's late. All I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take some questions. Damn, Grant, I didn't realize how many hated you till you traded Kittle, man. It felt like the Niners web zone form days. They hated me back there 15 years ago. But that's okay. Kittle is the AD of football great players with injuries.
Anthony Davis.
AD.
I don't know if I'd go there.
Grant, you said trade Bosa for the same reasons last year. Okay. Why I was wrong about Bosa? He's still really young. And even if he gets hurt again, he's shown that he can bounce back. I think his trade value is pretty locked in for a while. I'm not so sure about Kittle. That's what I'm saying. Is that fair? Like,
no, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair. I'm gonna give you an example exactly why. Do you remember how many injuries Rob Gronkowski had the offseason before he retired with Tom Brady? Do you remember what the Lions were willing to offer to trade for Rob Gronkowski?
Tell me. No.
The Lions wanted to remember. The story was that Rob Gronkowski was pissed because the Patriots almost traded him for a first-round pick to the Lions, and it was the year before he retired because he didn't want to play anywhere else. And then he came back to play with Tom Brady. So, and Gronk had double the injuries at that point than what Kittle's had right now. He's a little bit older too.
Okay. Zach says, "Did you guys hear M?" Oh, yeah. Did you hear McDaniels on Rich Eisen take a shot at Kyle about being a coach's son? No. On how Mike got into coaching and beat around the bush on if Trey Lance is really good.
I actually did want to see that interview, by the way. I have that interview pulled up on my phone as one of the things I need to listen to a bit later. I will go listen to that.
Yeah, I'll watch that later. Sorry about that, Zach. We should have hit that up. That Niner guy says, you trade Kittle, then what? Top tight ends do not grow on trees. Yes, he gets hurt, but that's all tight end. He missed one season with significant time. Stop trading captains. They have a window. Hold on. Is a great tight end less more or less valuable than a great cornerback? I'm just saying. I'm not saying trade Kittle for a pick who's a total unknown. I'm saying just swap greatness to another side of your team because on offense, literally Deebo does everything Kittle does for you except block. And if you got to replace Kittle's blocking, you could probably find a way to do that, especially if you had an all-pro corner. Just saying.
Yeah.
A lot of teams that run the ball without George Kittle. And the fact that they're going to go from Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance is what's going to really help the yards per attempt. Just saying. They were 16th in yards per attempt with Kittle out there this year. Mexican gaming.
See, I disagree with that.
Oh, I bet you
I think
average more yards per carry next year with or without Kittle. with or without Kittle. Because
yards per carry.
Yards per
I thought
carry.
yards per attempt. I thought you meant pass attempt.
Oh, no. Yards per carry. I'm talking football. I'm talking running back. Running, rushing. I'm talking English. Brandon Park, the defense gears up to stop Kittle when Deebo isn't in the backfield. He's our second best blocker. Jimmy's bringing down the value of him and Ayuk. Trey unlocks the true potential of this offense. Well, here's the thing. There's no way the Niners are trading George Kittle, so don't worry about it. I'm just being a jerk in it's February. It's not going to happen, right? Is it going to happen?
No.
Absolutely not. Grant, you're a great reporter, but Vish plays better GM than you. That's why he's on the show. That's why I ask him the questions. Move Kittle right tackle. He did say he loves blocking. Makes no sense to trade Kittle as the entire point of a quarterback on a rookie deal is to stack the roster and make a 3-year push to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying don't.
Yeah, but you're missing his point. You're missing his point. His point isn't trade Kittle for picks and try to rebuild. His point is trade Kittle for another All-Pro player
who's about a little younger, maybe half a year. With Jimmy hospital ball leaving, Kittle should be able to see 30-yard seams instead of 5-yard bulldozer ball. True, but what scares me about Kittle is the non-contact injuries. That's hard to prevent. They need to trade Kittle, save money, and cut Jimmy already. I'm tired of this guy. Get a shutdown cornerback. The one guy who agrees with me. Thank you. All right, let's move on to something else. Jaquiski Tartt. I don't think Niner fans are really tripping on strong safety this year, but he's a free agent. Don't know if he's coming back or not. Do you think the Niners will re-sign Jaquiski Tartt? I don't know why there's a colon in front of the R. Let me fix that.
Yeah, so I have no clue whether they're going to re-sign Jaquiski Tartt. To me, they should re-sign Jaquiski Tartt. And I know people are really, really upset. I mean, all you have to do is open up Twitter. People are really upset about the dropped interception, and there's no excuses for it. But I think the thing that makes Jaquiski Tartt the single most important free agent for the 49ers, maybe him and K'Wan Williams together, is that the Niners do not have a replacement in waiting. Laken Tomlinson, you did invest in a second-round guard in Aaron Banks. So if he walks, I guess, at least, there's somebody that you've invested in. Yeah. Who knows what he is.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert, right? Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon. I don't know why I said Trent. I was thinking Trent Sherfield for a second. Both of those guys, right? You invested draft picks in. Trey Sermon you traded up for, in fact. So if he walks, technically you have looked to draft his replacement. Same thing with DJ Jones. Javon Kinlaw tore his ACL, but he's coming back. And, ideally your 14th overall pick, you would like him to be the one playing a lot of snaps, as good of a player as DJ Jones is, right? So technically I'm not saying these players are as good as, I'm not saying Aaron Banks is as good as Laken Tomlinson. I'm not saying that DJ Jones, Javon Kinlaw is as good as DJ Jones. All I'm saying is the Niners have invested in replacements for these players.
Yeah.
There's no replacement today on the 49ers for Jaquiski Tartt. And what makes the Tartt conversation so complex is that the Niners aren't in a position at this point to draft a replacement for Tartt, right? The kind of player Tartt is, you draft a player in the first round to replace him. And here's the thing, and
I'm not going to go that far. I'm gearing up to argue with you, but I'm going to let you finish.
Here's the thing, though. I'll explain. Here's what people don't understand about Tartt, right? The one dropped interception is going to live in people's mind. But first of all, he's a really big guy. And him being a really big guy, what is he, 6'2", 220? He's a big safety. And him being that big of a safety means that, you can put him on the line of scrimmage and he can fill the C and D gap in the run game. In fact, he can fill the A gap at times in the run game. Why is that really important? Because, not a lot of safeties can really do that in the run game. He's huge. Versatile. He can take on a lead blocker. Then at 6'2", 220, he can move. He moves unbelievably well for a guy his size. He moves laterally really well, and he's really fast for a guy his size, which means that you can so you can put him in the C and D gap on the box on the line of scrimmage. Oh shoot, we got to put him in the post. You can put him in the post. He can cover. He's got enough range to cover ground from the hash to the sideline. All of these things. I'm not saying Tartt is the best safety in the NFL. But I'm saying he does all of these things really well, and he's cost-effective because of his injury history. And if the Niners want to find a safety that can do all the things as well as him and be an even better player, they're going to have to pay $12 million to find that safety. And if they want to, let him walk, Tarvarius Moore, I don't know why Niners fans are obsessed with him. He has not shown anything to be a starting safety at any point in his career thus far. Neither has Hufanga, by the way. And Hufanga is a 6th-round pick who doesn't have the same physical ability as Tartt. He's not as big. He's not as fast. And so you just can't do the same things you do with Tartt with him. So those two guys to me aren't replacements for Tartt. And then, so I just think you have to bring him back. Like, there's nobody that can do the job that he does, and there's nobody that's as cost effective as him. That's the problem. Or
I would
the
replace
thing.
him. I would replace him. But I agree about everything you said. I agree with everything you said about Tartt. I just want to argue with you because it's fun to argue, and you're hard to argue against. First of all, I agree with all your premises. Tartt is really good. I would replace him with caveats. I don't know what do you think he would cost? Because at a certain price, I'd take him back. Sure.
See, I think because he didn't play 17 games again, and I think once again, he's going to end up, looking at a 1 year, $4 million, 1 year, $5 million deal.
$5 million. That's a lot.
$4 million.
I mean, if he wanted to come back on what he did last year or like $2-3 million.
I mean, if he comes back for what he did last year, I mean, just give him the contract right now.
But I mean, the thing is,
that's a steal.
I still, even if you brought him back, I still would want to look for an upgrade for a few reasons. One, he's 30. Period. Two, I think the Niners need to start finding starting defensive backs with ball skills. And Jaquiski Tartt's a fine safety, but him next to Ward, you got two guys who really don't intercept passes. There's no one in the secondary who really does that well or actually has plus ball skills. And now you have an opportunity to get a guy like that. And I know you said they're super expensive, but yeah, I mean, that's the price of doing business. If they could get an upgrade at safety and it would fit if Parag Marat could work his magic, do it. Absolutely. It's a premium. I mean, I think all these secondary spots are premium positions. And if they could get a safety with some ball skills in round 2 or in the free agent market, then, maybe Tartt would be better fit somewhere else.
And, that's a possibility. I just think the way this offseason is kind of playing out, I just think that they might
a lot of money earmarked for different places, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And because you might not get that opportunity, this guy's still a hell of a player. And, when we really break down their free agents, they do not have anybody waiting in the wings that can do his job.
No, they don't.
You can say he's 30. You can say he's injury prone. You can say he dropped the pick, whatever. But at the same time, he still does a lot of things at an extremely high level. And the 49ers have not shown the ability to replace him at any point in his career.
What they would have
That's
to
why
do
he's
is
remained a 49er.
Draft a guy with the 61st pick and hope he's as good as Tartt, which is guarantee, or give someone like a 3-year, $45 million deal, which is a hefty investment. I'm not against that. I think good safeties are worth that. You could get a guy like Jesse Bates, Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, there are guys you could get who would technically be an upgrade over Tartt. I don't think the Niners are really
but the conversation changes. Like if you're talking Jesse Bates, well, Jesse Bates adds a little bit more in the pass game because he's a bit more explosive than Tartt, right? So he adds a bit more because he just has a little more range. Yeah. But the run game drop off is massive. Jesse Bates can't fill the C&D gap in the run game. He's not big enough. He doesn't play physical enough. He's improved against the run, but he's not as good as Tartt against the run.
You can put Jimmy Ward as strong. I'll take that trade-off, man.
But then you're worried about Ward's body holding up, right? You're talking about a 5'10", 190-pound.
I'm worried about defending the pass. This defense is stuck. I mean, they
do defend the pass at an extremely high level, right? They do defend the pass
in the secondary at some point. At some point, you got to get ball skills in the secondary. I'm tired of these tackling specialists with good wingspans. Like, they're solid, but you got to have you got to have a playmaker in the freaking secondary. You don't have to, but why would you not want one? What is with this organizational philosophy of avoiding players with ball skills?
Because when you have a playmaker in the secondary, first quarter against the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC Championship game, he doesn't do his job, and Terrell Brown is throwing his helmet down because Julio Jones ran right by him for a touchdown.
I'm not saying a guy who gambles. I'm saying a guy who can catch a pop fly if it hits him in the chest.
Okay, fair. I mean, to be fair, Jimmy Ward did do that this year when he got his pop flies. He did catch them, and I can't say anything because Tartt did drop his one opportunity. Yeah. But if you're talking playmaker, but also doesn't make mistakes, well, that guy is in Kenton right now. He's got a long beard, a little bit of white in it. His name's Ed Reed.
Connotations, not playmaker, ball skills. Guy with hand-eye coordination, freaking hand-eye coordination. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But if Tartt is cost effective, do both. Draft a guy and bring in Tartt. What I don't want is Tavarius Moore or Talanoa Hufanga.
That's the point, right? That's the point, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he's the most important player, because they don't have a guy that can replace him.
No.
And that's the same thing with K'Wan Williams. Lenore clearly isn't ready to do that. Hence why they were playing Dante Johnson as the nickel, because there's so many run game responsibilities that K'Wan Williams takes on. And, you can say, well, K'Wan Williams and Tartt are always hurt. Oh, well, K'Wan Williams and Tartt, they're older players. But at this point, if the Niners are, a Super Bowl, a team with Super Bowl aspirations, right, you can't downgrade. You got to bring those guys back.
You can't downgrade. And I'm with you on that. That's why I'm saying I'd like to upgrade. And what you're saying is it'll be expensive. True. And from Tartt's perspective, what a slap in the face that they thought they could replace him with a 5th round pick. No. If you're replacing Tartt, it's with that 2nd round pick or someone who's going to make more money than Jimmy Ward. And I think it's worth the investment. The Niners, I'm sure don't. So that's another one. Tartt, if you're watching, you probably have a good chance of coming back, because the Niners can't be telling themselves Hufanga is better.
If they go to the offseason with Moore and Hufanga at safety, it'll be 2018 all over again when they changed Jimmy Ward's position to corner and thought Adrian Colbert was a starting safety. And, you're going to be reporting in camp about Marquise Goodwin's deep touchdowns. And then we're going to watch it all culminate in Josh Rosen throwing maybe the best pass of his career because Adrian Colbert, lost where he was supposed to be in the post, and Christian Kirk caught a touchdown. And the Niners are the one team that lose to that Cardinals team both times.
Adrian Colbert's career ended that day on that play. It was amazing to see the entire NFL be like, whoa, not an NFL player. All right, I got more debating to do because I think me and Vish are basically disagreeing on everything today, which is fun. Vish, do the Niners need to acquire a number 1 cornerback?
Technically, yeah.
Thank you. Finally,
technically, yeah.
Technically,
I think it's about how you're going to acquire one, because my thing with the number 1 quarterback is I think every year some guys, Tremaine Johnson, guys like that get paid like number 1 corners every year because you're always looking for one. But really, there's only 4 guys that are number 1 corners, and those guys are locked up long term. They went in the first 7 picks in the draft, and they're usually locked up.
Hold on. I'm not saying shutdown corner. There are only 4 shutdown. I'm saying number 1. Mm-hmm. Like I would think there's got to be 30 number 1 corners in the league. Like technically, you're maybe not 30, 25.
I don't even know if there's 30 starting cornerbacks in the NFL, because a guy looks like a starter one year and then the next year he doesn't. It's a volatile position.
It's true. Okay,
right.
I see what you're saying. I guess you always make me define my terms, and what I'm saying is I don't have a definition of a number 1 cornerback, and I don't even know how. But what I would say, though, to do like an anti-definition, I don't think Emmanuel Mosley or Ambry Thomas have shown yet that they are. And the reason I say that is look at how D'Amico uses them, man. So conservatively. 9 yards off the ball with 2 safeties helping him.
So I would not put those 2 guys in the same tier. I think Mosley has proven himself to be not something more than just a starting corner. Yeah.
High level 2.
Yeah.
I like Mosley. Definitely a good 2, man. A hell of a 2. If you had someone else, if you had Mosley and Xavier Howard, or even Mosley and healthy Jason Verrett, damn.
If you had Mosley and healthy Jason Verrett, this would be the best defense in the NFL by far.
Yes, it would. But you don't. And that's why I'm interested in getting this freaking player on the team, whoever it is. I said it was Xavier Howard, right? What if you don't get him? What about just signing someone like Stephon Gilmore? Now I know he's 30.
So I would do that. He's still that player. Like the 2 guys I want the 49ers to sign this offseason in the spirit of win now. I'm with you. Like I think the 49ers need players, and it's not just in the secondary, that are going to make game-changing plays in big moments. And the 2 guys I think the 49ers should sign with the money that we think will be given to them once they trade Jimmy Garoppolo are Von Miller and Stephon Gilmore. To me, especially Von Miller.
That's very aggressive.
To me, with Von Miller, the thing is, okay, well, Von Miller, 1, he's still an unbelievable player. Von Miller is still unbelievable against the run. He's still an unbelievable pass rusher. 2, Von Miller is going to be on a short-term deal, right? 3, Von Miller really wanted to play with Javon Kinlaw. No, I'm joking about that.
Big game player. Game player.
And it's like the old, Darren McFadden, DeMarco Murray
also,
argument.
you weaken a rival. Your rival. You weaken your rival, because if he doesn't go to the Niners, he's probably going back to the Rams.
Right, and it's the argument of like, Arden Key technically might have the same statistical production as Von Miller, like over the season, because Arden Key had a hell of a season. But 3rd and 7 in the playoffs with Matthew Stafford when he's driving down trying to take the lead, Von Miller's going to make the one play that, somebody like Arden Key won't make. And Stephon Gilmore's that way. So I would sign those two players because to me, those are Hall of Fame level players that are still playing at a high level that are game changers. What I wouldn't do is, throw a lot of money at the next Tremaine Johnson, which I think there's a lot of corners that get paid like that. So I think acquiring a number one corner is essential.
Are you saying J.C. Jackson could be that?
It's just no, I don't think so. Anytime the Patriots give up on a corner, I run. Like remember,
are you saying J.C. Jackson could be the next
for the Super Bowl?
What I'm saying is, do you think he could be the next Tremaine Johnson? Like gets a bunch of money and just an utter disappointment.
I think so.
Okay. All right. So Vish and I actually found something we agree about. We would both go after Gilmore, and I guess if we sign Gilmore, that sort of takes my trade target away.
I would not only go after Gilmore, I would go after Gilmore and spend another third-round pick on another corner and have him join the room and compete.
Love it. I like that. So who am I going to trade Kittle for then? Damn. I got to trade Kittle, man. That's all I know. He's got to go. What about a right tackle? Can I trade Kittle and Mike McGlinchey in the same deal? No, that's a lot of money going out. If only. All right, moving on. This is interesting. John Lynch is really in demand as an announcer. We heard him announce before he was the number 2 guy at Fox. But now he comes here and we figure like this is your general manager, a Hall of Fame. Actually, it doesn't seem like his stock has gone up that much as a personnel guy because no one really knows what he does in Santa Clara. But it seems like this whole experience has made TV networks look at him as even more legit. And he just turned down $10 million a year from freaking Amazon, which does Thursday Night Football now. $10 million? I don't think maybe he's making that with the 49ers. Makes me feel like he thinks he could get an even better deal soon from another place. Is John going to be back in the booth soon?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
If he's turning down $10 million, Grant, that means he really loves what he's doing.
Maybe he thinks he'd get $15 million from Fox in a year. I don't know.
$15 million?
Dude, that's what I'm thinking, man.
John McVay wasn't even offered that, Grant.
I don't know, man. John Lynch, people love this guy. I don't know. What is it about John Lynch? Is he the most overrated?
I have no clue. But I mean, I didn't think he was like this game changer in the booth. Like Gruden, McVay would be a game changer because he talks just like Gruden, and Gruden was one of, he was a little annoying at times, but Gruden made the game interesting.
I hated Gruden. What I hated about Gruden was every player was great. Every player was great. McVay,
yeah.
I hope he doesn't do stuff like that, but he probably
let me tell you about this guy, man.
Oh,
he'll gut you.
Every player was the greatest player of all time. I couldn't take that with Gruden. It's like, all right, because you want to maybe not burn your bridge with this team, huh? Because anyway.
No, that was definitely 100% the case. But it was just Gruden had this, really weird way of talking and describing things that was just,
He was a caricature.
Yeah, he was a caricature, for sure.
John Lynch is not a caricature. He's very dignified, a little vanilla. Is it fair to say he's a little bland?
I think he's vanilla. I don't. Bland. Yeah, but I also think Troy Aikman's vanilla. So,
dude, Troy Aikman seems so bored at every game he covers. Am I the only one? He's always like,
and he's actually maybe the meanest of like him, Romo, and Collinsworth. Like he says things that because he's Troy Aikman and the way he says it, people don't realize how mean he is. But he'll say stuff like, this guy doesn't have the amount of talent to do this, so he shouldn't do it.
I don't listen to announcers very much because I'm in the press box. But when I got COVID for the NFC Championship game and listened to him, I was like, dude, first of all, the way he talked about Jimmy Garoppolo won me over. I'm like, I love you. I love this guy. No one has the courage to say this out here, but you just come in, you're like, this is just not acceptable. Like, thank you for saying it what it is, Troy. Anyway, John Lynch's future, I disagree with you, man. For whatever reason, I think these TV stations see him as a freaking superstar. And the difference between him now and 5 years ago is Hall of Fame player
GM experience
and a GM experience. And now I think, I don't know, man, because to me, I think the Niners have been kind of like, do we need him? I mean, we like him, but we don't want to lose Adam Peters. So at a certain point, they may just be like, hey, if you want to go to Fox, you have our blessing. I'm just saying. I mean, the grind between those two jobs is extremely different, right? Like John Lynch is working a job right now that he has to put in 12, 13 hours a day. The Fox job is a totally different grind, not to mention the benefits of just going around city to city and all of that. I mean, Sean Payton literally talked about that after he retired on the Rich Eisen broadcast about how the grind is what got to him. So if he's turning down, a higher paying job with, a better work-life balance, then I don't see why he would go to the booth.
at any point.
Maybe Amazon just wasn't big enough for him. I'm just saying. Anyway, my prediction, John Lynch will be back in the booth within 2 years. That's my prediction. But my predictions are usually wrong. So, at least I'm not going to tweet it because those last forever. All right, last thing.
Subject to change, or is this for sure set in stone?
Set in stone for now. All right. All right, so this is hell interesting to me. It's not really a Niner topic. We'll try to make it one. The Cardinals are falling apart. Kyler Murray a couple of weeks ago scrubbed all of his Cardinals references from his social media, and he said it wasn't about contract negotiation, but today it is about the contract negotiation. And him and his agent put out this manifesto about how much he wants to be with the Cardinals, but how the Cardinals have to show that they want him to be a part of their long-term plans, and that means paying him $50 million a year. So, hey, not the Niners' problem, but definitely I'm sure they're laughing in Santa Clara, and this is probably good news to them because for a while it looked like the Cardinals were taking the play away from the Niners, and it was going to be the Cardinals and the Rams. Now, I don't know. What do you think about what's happening in Arizona?
First of all, the thing people don't really know about me as much. They know this Stafford. I love Kyler Murray. I like Kyler Murray too. Since he went to Oklahoma.
$50 million for any player. You know that.
No, I don't like the way Kyler Murray's handled this situation that much. He comes across, a little bit sensitive and, a little bit, it's a little childish, honestly, the way it's come across. And honestly, I think that the way it's handled in public, the negotiation, I think it's clear Kyler Murray wants to get paid. And I think it's clear that the fact that he's gotten injured the second half of the last 2 seasons, he left a lot of money on the table with baseball. He wants to make sure that he is securing his long-term future. And I mean, 2 Pro Bowls and a Rookie of the Year in 3 years, that's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. He's one of the 6 he's one of the quarterbacks that fits in the 8 to 12 range of QBs. He's a top 10 QB in my opinion,
and he can play on a given day. He can play the best quarterback in the league. He'll
yeah
have days
he's the most unstoppable player in the NFL.
Yes, absolutely.
And so because of that, I just think it's interesting. But to me, my main takeaway is really Kyler Murray, because he's gotten beaten up and because he gave away what could have been maybe an even more lucrative future in baseball. He's pressing and he's anxious about ensuring that he secures his future with the money.
I love the Cardinals. I love Kyler Murray in a rookie deal. I'm not a fan of paying anyone $50 million a year. And Kyler, not only does he get hurt, but his numbers aren't great. He's a hell of a talent, but it's not like he's put together the resume of Patrick Mahomes and he's like, well, you got to do it. I mean, that's great. It's still a bit of a projection with Kyler Murray because he's shown the flashes and he does.
Heck, I'm not even sure Lamar would be able to command $50 million, and he's won an MVP.
And Lamar has actually done more than Kyler Murray.
He's won an MVP.
I don't know, man. I could definitely see why Arizona's like.
And you want to talk about he talked about, they were a terrible team before he came and he turned them around right away. But Lamar has taken it an even bigger step in Baltimore. Heck, if they don't get hurt this year, even with Lamar Jackson having a bad month of November, Baltimore makes the playoffs. And heck, they might have won the AFC North. They were 8-3. They were the 1 seed. And then Lamar Jackson got hurt. So
I'm off the Cardinals. Basically what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to bring this back to the Niners. I kept being the guy for the last year or two being like, hey, watch out for Arizona. They are coming for the 49ers. They're going to pass them. Now I'm like, they missed it. They're going to be spending a ton of money on their quarterback just like every other team. And I think the Niners are basically better than them. And then now the Niners have the quarterback who's cost effective, theoretically. So I think the Niners, I don't think the Cardinals they look like a team that's going to be 8-9, 9-8 for a while.
Maybe, but he's really the one special thing about that team, right?
Hopkins. Once Hopkins went down, everyone fell apart. Kyler, the whole thing. Hopkins is pretty important.
Yeah, but that's just more about, the fact the one thing we should be talking about is the fact that, Steve Keim has somehow managed to last 3 different coaches in Arizona when the best moves he's made are 2 trades, Chandler Jones and DeAndre Hopkins. Who's he drafted? Zaven Collins? That's a biscuit.
Ooh, Biscuit.
Zaven Collins actually, if you go back and look at the 2021 draft and you just look at it on face value, now there's some unknowns like Trey Lance. And then I put all 4 quarterbacks in unknowns, but in the first 16 picks, Zaven Collins might be the only pick that hasn't worked out.
Oh, what about Isaiah Simmons?
I think he's okay, but they play Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks is their number 1 linebacker. So
Byron Murphy?
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Rodney Hudson, that was
like
another
Rondale
great trade. That's another great trade.
I thought Rondale's cool.
Rondale Moore. Change their offense as a second round, though. As a second round pick.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. I can't really.
Maybe Buda Baker.
Buda Baker.
There you go.
Baker, there you go.
The other safety, Jalen Thompson, is quite good, too.
Sure. All right. Those are our topics for the day. That's our hour with Vish. Right on the nose, too. Vish, thank you very much. Your internet was phenomenal today. Your hair was even better. Your takes were the best. I appreciate it.
I mean, dude, we had some disagreement today. We were, having a little bit of
That's what the off season's for, man. You got to spice it up because really there haven't been many topics other than things I make up or me getting in fights with players. So we got to do something. There's only so many players I can get to block me.
I still don't get it. I think there were a lot of people just waiting in the wings, to get their shot off. Grant's been a little too successful the last couple of years, and then Deebo blocking Grant proved something about Grant to them, I guess.
I thought he was I didn't think he was mad. He had the crying, laughing emojis. I thought he was having a good time with it, and then
I thought it was in jest actually. When
I thought it was in jest, and then he blocked me. I was like, maybe I honestly thought his agent was like, dude, stop, block that guy and never tweet him again. That's what I would say if I was his agent. Like, I'm just saying.
I was shocked that he tweeted you, right? Because I was shocked he tweeted you because he doesn't tweet like anybody.
He's an Instagram guy, right? I don't know.
I'm not on Instagram, but I'm he's my favorite player in the league, so I'm keeping track of his Twitter. It's usually he'll come on one day and he'll tweet a bunch of random things. It'll be like 3 tweets in a span of 10 minutes. Everyone will be like, "What the hell is Deebo trying to say?" And then it really means a whole lot of nothing.
The years where you could just post cryptic messages on social media are over. You're the best player in football. You have to think like, what would happen if Kyler Murray did the same thing I did? What would happen if Aaron Rodgers? Because that's how good you are. And anytime you tweet anything, it's borderline news, especially if we don't know what it means.
Yeah,
I mean, Kyler Murray deleted pictures, and that was news.
Right. And he is the star. Yes. Of the 49ers, right? If you're talking 49ers, like, because it's not because like Bosa, Williams, Fred Warner, these are excellent players, but they're not the kind of players that, Fox wants to put on their pregame show that like every kid wants to wear his jersey and everything. That player on the 49ers is Deebo Samuel.
Period. With
his post-game press conferences, he's dressed. I mean, Deebo Samuel dresses well. The chains are always on point, and he comes in. And
to Deebo's point, he's been posting cryptic messages for a long time, and clearly all of them aren't about football. Maybe most of them aren't. But, dude, you're too famous now. I'm sorry. Hey, more money, more problems, Deebo. More money, more problems. Biggie said that a long time ago.
He needs his more money. He needs his more money. Deebo Samuel needs to get that bag.
More money, more problems, Deebo. Sorry. The era of tweeting cryptic lyrics just for the sake of it, probably over. Probably. Bet you won't do it anymore.
Why probably? Give me something definitive here, Grant.
Probably. It's over. If I were your agent, I'd be like, dude, you're about to have $100 million in like 2 months. Will you chill? Stop tweeting. Can we get you to stop tweeting?
Yeah. I think it has to be 100, right?
What I've noticed, though, is athletes tweet the most right before they sign their second contract. I think it's probably the most anxiety they've ever felt in their entire life. And then after they get that life-changing second contract, they never tweet again. Ever.
No, they don't.
About, like,
they just retweet, something their teammate did for
exactly.
charity. Yeah,
so above it. And I love that. Like Deebo, I gotta savor it.
Like Eric Armstead has disappeared from Twitter.
Where are you, Eric? I've been trying so hard to get some kind of interaction with Eric Armstead, but he's just so above it now. He's like, you can kiss my pinky ring. I am the king of Sacramento. Thank you very much. I respect
Eric. He's doing unbelievable right now.
Eric's cool. I mean, he doesn't like me at all, but he's definitely doing a good job with the whole city of Sacramento. And also, I didn't tell anyone this, but because I wasn't trying to be like I went to pick up my credential in Dallas at the team hotel, and like the whole team was there. And I didn't want to do it because I was like spying. It was kind of like the Cincinnati thing, but it was in
Mhm.
I didn't tell anyone about this. Anyway, I was sitting right across from Eric Armstead, which is interesting. I was writing my article. He's right there, and I was curious to see if he was going to acknowledge me. He pretended like I didn't exist, which is fine, but he was sitting there with his parents, both of them, and he was just sitting talking with them for like an hour and a half, and I was so touched. I was like, oh, he's a good son. He's a good member of the community. Like, he's probably a good guy. So
yeah, he's awesome.
Eric Armstead.
I mean, he's awesome. What he's done.
Yeah.
What he's done, in Sacramento, it's incredible. I hope he does win the Walter Payton Man of the Year soon.
He should have won it this year. Who won it? Some
I
white guy?
think so too. Andrew Woodworth.
Yeah.
Andrew Woodworth. Who else? Yeah.
Some white guy? That's fine. Anyway, I don't know how we got an Eric Armstead, but Kyler Murray, Arizona Cardinals. Man, Kyle Shanahan must be really, really amused.
Yeah, the funny thing is,
not amused.
To me, the only frustrating thing is I feel like it's happened too early in the offseason. Like, this could be washed away by May, which would stink. Like, I need this to start in June and, really creep up and, be the cloud over the Cardinals season.
JCK510 says, Grant, are you still Kittle's dog? I was never Kittle's dog. Let me just make that real clear. All right? I'm not friends with anyone on the team. Anyone. And that's why people are like, oh.
Not even Jimmy Ward? Damn.
Nah, man, I like Jimmy Ward, but we ain't friends. Maybe when he retires, me and him will fish. We'll go fishing. But until one of us invites the other over for dinner and we have a dinner party and I meet his wife and he meets my wife, we're not friends. We've done that. You're my friend. I've had dinner with Vish. Vish has met my wife. Vish is my friend. I'm the same. That's right. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with Usual Suspects. See you then.